So the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. Okay, guys, so I want us to conclude now. We've been speaking a lot, guys, about this whole ordeal. A lot, guys. Things happened. You see, guys, once you understand Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and then you connect it to Jesus's ministry, you will actually understand the Bible. Because you see, Daddy, as I said in the beginning, that he actually wrote it or used people to write it in a way that only he can interpret it, because you'll find one piece here, that piece here, and the other piece there, so when all those pieces of the puzzles are put together and Jesus has to reveal certain things to you, that's why he says the secret knowledge of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you but not to the world. So when Jesus does that, guys, you are able to put all the pieces of the puzzles together and you're like, yeah, you understand, even though you will not necessarily fully understand it. Because see, guys, Paul says we know in part, we hear in part, and we understand in part, you understand. So it's things like that. What we are given, we can understand, but what we don't understand, guys, I mean, guys, hello, you know what I mean? So he did it like that on purpose. So that's why I always take you to Genesis 1, 2, 3, because once you get that, you will really understand the ministry of Jesus. That's why it says that he opened his mouth and he uttered things hidden since the creation of the world, because law was given to the Israelites. Law was given to Moses, you understand? Those people only understood the laws. Don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this, but grace and truth came through Jesus. So Jesus came and spoke things and you're like, yeah, now I understand what happened. You understand? So you also read Paul's letters, Peter's letters, James, John, all these dudes, and you're like, yeah, this piece of the puzzle now makes sense. Guys, I remember there was a time where Paul was speaking about the ministry that he was given, and he says that angels are actually shocked. Even angels did not understand much, but when they learned of this ministry, they were also like, wow, God is wise, So guys, once you understand the Genesis 1, 2, 3, and you connect it to Jesus, you'll be fine. You will then get better understanding of the word, because that's what we do, guys. We are commanded to grow, to grow and mature into the level of who? Of Christ, because he is the epitome of wisdom. In fact, guys, if in our dictionaries, the word wisdom, if they can put the picture of Jesus, unfortunately, no one knows it. But guys, Revelations 1 and Daniel 7 tells us how he looks like, and it tells us this description. If they can put this picture of someone with hair as white as snow and hair as white as snow, and then put eyes blazing with fire, and they say this is Jesus, then you're like, yeah, now we get it, because this guy, guys, is the epitome of wisdom. Nevertheless, guys, we're not speaking about it here, guys. We are concluding. As you've learned, we've been speaking a lot, concerning Satan, because he's busy, guys. The guy has defeated the church, as we've been speaking earlier, and also we've been speaking last day in 2023, speaking about the wars to the churches, because there I wanted you to understand how Satan blasphemes and how he has defeated the church. I wanted to make you understand that as well. I was speaking about the beast. You understand, according to my Lord, according to John, according to Paul, and according to Daniel, because they're all speaking the same thing. So I wanted to put all those pieces of the puzzles together so that you would get this. You understand? It's imperative, guys, that you understand everything about the kingdom of heaven. You understand? So here, as I'm concluding, I just want to focus more on the church, because you see here, as I said in the beginning, that this woman, you can include Mary, because if you go, if you've actually listened to part 2, 3, and 4, you'll find where, I think it's Revelations 12, where it speaks of a woman who was helped by the earth. Satan was trying to, to to destroy this woman, and the earth opened up and it helped the woman, meaning that you can say that it was Mary at that time when Herod was busy, in the Gospel of Matthew, say he was busy, causing mayhem, trying to kill all the male children in order to make sure that Jesus doesn't come here on earth, so you can say it's Mary. That's why I said you can include Mary if you want to, but it's actually a church. Now, a church, guys, at that time was not born yet. Jesus tells Peter, he says, you are Peter, you are Cephas, and upon this rock, meaning you are a rock, you are Peter, upon this rock I build my church. So Jesus builds his church, and he said Peter was the pillar of it. Guys, and that guy did a great job. Guys, I usually call my Peter my dummy one, my stupid one, my naive one. He was the Ben Stiller of the group, he was the Chris Rock, of the group, you know what I mean? So I love him very much. But this guy was wise, because you start reading about him in the Acts of the Apostles, he turns the world upside down. Jesus does miracles through that dude, So Peter is now, the pillar of the church, and Jesus is coming with what, guys? With the church. And Daddy right here, guys, in Genesis 3, he's promising Satan, he says, through this woman, I'm going to destroy you. And there will be war. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. Now, the woman, I want us to focus on the woman because we are concluding now. Because you will think of a woman, and you will think of the church, and you will think of these churches here on earth. No. If you've been listening to this show for some time now, you know that I cannot speak about any church in this generation. You know that. I've actually explained why. So you understand that we are not talking about this woman. This church here, we see here on that, these different churches, it's not the woman Daddy is referring to. This church has already been defeated. This one, you understand? Already been defeated. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the real church, the church of Jesus, meaning the word, the Bible, the Holy Bible. That's the word. Now, guys, we need to understand something. Pre-Jesus, there was what you call it, synagogue or synagogue. I think it's synagogue, you understand? So Jesus had not yet come with the church. So Jesus came with the church when he started ministry, but not even at that time, because we were still introducing the church. You understand? The church actually came with Peter, James, John, but Jesus founded the church. Because you see, when you read the Gospels, because in the Gospels, guys, I want you to understand this church I'm talking about. I don't want you to confuse it with churches here on earth. I don't want you. Please, guys, please, let us not confuse this. That's why I'm going to explain. I tend to explain so that we don't get confused. Now, Jesus, now when you get to understand Jesus here in the Gospels, he speaks of the church, and he says, Peter, you are the pillar of this church. You understand? And pillar is the pillar of the church. And in the Gospels, guys, it's the master himself. It's my Lord himself. My Lord, guys, is the one who is actually speaking, is the one who's giving us teachings. As I said, guys, if Jesus had given us the blood and then went back home, that would have done half part, because our flesh is still dead. Even if you do get saved, even if you remove the sin of Adam that was passed on to you from Adam, the flesh is still dead. Nothing happens to it, So it's still giving us problems. That's why you find that even people who were once saved are now no longer saved. The Pentecostal churches. Why? Because the flesh kept giving them problems, and they sided with lies. That's dying again spiritually. You understand? So the flesh gives us a lot of problems. I hate my flesh, So, guys, as I've said, that in the Gospels, it is my Lord, introducing. So when Jesus was giving us teachings, because he gave us teachings, then he went to the cross. Those teachings were so that after we have had our spirit recreated, after we've removed the sin, that was passed down onto us as an inheritance of death. You understand? As I said, guys, death is not an event, but a state of being. So it's a nature. When I say you are spiritually dead, I'm talking about a nature, spiritual nature, not an event as if like you are dying physically. No, you understand? So we understand now that Jesus gives us the blood. Jesus gives us teachings so that after we have had our spirit recreated, we can now apply the teachings in order, guys, to remain spiritually alive. Because after you know the truth and then you sin, you die spiritually. That's why Adam died, because he was already warned. He was already given the command. That's why he died spiritually. And also Hebrews 10:27, because nothing has changed. It's the nature. Once you continue in sin after knowing the truth, you die spiritually. You understand? So Jesus is giving us teachings first before he goes to the cross, and then he gives us the blood and everything, guys. So we have everything. There's nothing more we need from Jesus. You understand? So the church is born after Jesus is gone. So Peter is the pillar of the church. So this church is, so if you read the Gospels where the master teaches himself, you will realize that the letters, the Paul's letters, all Paul's letters, Peter's letters, all Peter's letters, James' letters, all James' letters, guys, John's letters, all John's letters, they are very much in line with what Jesus is saying. You understand? So that's the church that Jesus is actually speaking about. That's the church that Daddy is telling Satan that between you and a woman and between your offspring and hers. So he's saying that this church is going to defeat you. If you go back to Revelations 12, we also spoke about in part 2, I think, we said that the offspring are those who obey God's command, meaning they are in the church of Jesus. They might not be listening to the beliefs of churches, because if a church comes and say we must pray to Mary, that is not in line with the word. So that one is not the church Jesus is speaking about. If you listen to a church belief that says that there is no hell, that is not in line with the word, because the word says there is definitely hell. So that is not the church that Jesus is speaking about. You understand? So if you listen to a church belief that says that we should love riches, things of the world, money, you understand, and once saved, saved forever, you realize that is not in line with the word. So obviously that's not the church that Jesus is speaking about here. That's not the church that will defeat Satan. That's not the church that will crush his head. You understand? Because you can see that these beliefs aren't in line with Jesus' word. That's why I said, please let us not waste each other's time. Yeah, guys, I'm not going to waste your time. Don't waste my time as well. Don't come to me with church's beliefs. I won't come to you with church's belief. I stick to the word, because that's the church that Jesus actually speaks about. The church that will defeat, the church that would crush his head, and it has. And if you go to Revelation 12 again, it says that they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of his testimony, meaning they got stuck to the testimony of Jesus, what Jesus was saying. Not, guys, you go to churches, you find them standing in the front, testifying about the things of the world. God has given me this, God has blessed me with this. That's not the testimony that Jesus is talking about. That are the beliefs of churches. So they are offspring of this woman, which are the people who obey his commands. You also find that in Revelation 12, the part we also spoke about. You understand? So this is the church, guys. This is the church I'm speaking about. You see, guys, with me, because you understand by now that I don't have a church. Obviously, I can't go to any church because their beliefs are not in line with the word. But the word is still here. You see, guys, that's the strangest thing. You'll find that churches are carrying Bibles, but their beliefs are not in line with the word. Yet the Bible is still here. Meaning, guys, this thing is so ironic. It's so ironic. You sit and you're like, this thing is so ironic. The churches have been defeated here on earth because of their beliefs. Yet they are carrying the Bible that carries the right beliefs. You understand? So that's the church. You see with me, guys, Peter is my Paul. Peter is my pastor. James is my pastor. Paul is my pastor. You understand? John is my pastor. Why? They are in line with what Jesus is saying. When I read their letters, I find that in the gospel, Jesus is actually saying the same thing. In other words, they are in line. They are in line. So I can't go to any church because their beliefs are not in line. You understand? I cannot do that. Jesus said, if you listen to this, you're not going to be forgiven. Because after knowing the truth, they continued in sin. You understand? So if you want to belong to this church, you focus on the word. Don't even listen to me. Don't even listen to me. Luckily, I was never called to pastorship. I would have been the worst pastor. I wouldn't have been a good pastor at all. Even my sister used to say, if you're a pastor, no one will join you. And I'm like, yeah, thank God I'm not a pastor. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to say that I have pastors, Peter, James, John, Paul, you understand? Because they are in line with what my Lord is saying. That's the church that Jesus is speaking about. Until next.